Namaste and welcome to the Transformation Immersion's mega series. I hope that you are catching up with all the interviews as it is a golden chance of upgrading yourself for your overall well being. I'm your host Sonal Singhal, a techie turned holistic healer and transformational coach. Now, I want to ask you all a simple question. How is your gut feeling? And if you don't know the answer, then watch out your poop. Yes, yes, you heard me right. As our guest of today is going to reveal how important is this subject for all of us. So I welcome Laurie Seeley, a health detective and a professional opera singer. Laurie is a functional medicine health coach and a lover of young living essential oils. She teaches people through workshops, online programs, and provides one on one coaching on how to kill candida, cure your irritable bowel syndrome, and repair your gut. So, Laurie, welcome. And I am curious about why do you talk so much on the topic which many people feel uncomfortable talking about?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for having me. Um, yeah, I talk a lot about poop, and it's mostly because people are very uncomfortable talking about it. Remember, like, neither one of us were alive back then, but like 60 years ago, when nobody was talking about a woman's menstrual cycle, and now everybody knows that it's very important, and and it has a lot to do with our mood and our hair growth and the shape of our bodies. And so like our hormones, our sex hormones, and also our thyroid and adrenals and all of the other hormones, we have to remember that they're not only just sex hormones, right? They're very, very important for our health. And once we opened up the conversation about that, people started to be far more healthy and have far more balanced hormones. And and then they realize that, oh, this could be part of my problem, maybe this is where I should look, right? So the same thing, I want to do the same thing for gut health, right? Does this make sense? Like,
Yes.
once it stops being a taboo subject for people to talk about, and you can talk about, oh my God, I just almost pooped my pants on the way to work today. Like, because more people do that than you realize. And it's super embarrassing, just as having weird periods was very embarrassing back in the 60s, right? Like, it's super embarrassing, these things that happen to us, like, oh my God, I haven't pooped in 10 days. I don't know what's wrong. Nobody wants to talk about it. And I feel like it's super important to talk about, because what's happening in your gut is a direct reflection of your overall health. And if we are not aware that our gut is messed up and that it's connected in such a way to our overall health, then we're missing a huge opportunity to be super healthy and to not be tired and run down and itchy and irritable and, and have brain fog and all this stuff that people are just dealing with. And they think that, oh, it's just part of getting older, or, like weight gain and all those things. Oh, it's just part of getting older. This wrinkly skin is just all part of getting older. It's not. It doesn't have to be that way. We can be so much healthier and feel so much more energized and have so much more fun if we really pay attention to our gut and fix it when there's something wrong down there. So that's why I talk about it, because I want people to start to be comfortable talking about that stuff and realize that they have issues. And really what sparked that was that I, for the first 40 years of my life, was constipated, and I didn't know. And I'm a super intelligent, well-educated woman who should know those things. And the thing is, like, none of my doctors ever asked me what my poop looked like. They may have possibly asked, do you have any digestive issues? And since I wasn't aware, they didn't educate me about what a digestive issue looks like. I said no. And then they thought I was fine. And I wasn't. I was super constipated. But I didn't like, I had the weird kind of constipation that people don't understand. People don't necessarily know about it. And that's like, I had these tiny little hard balls 9 times a day. And I thought, I was like, I poop every time I go to the bathroom. I'm winning at poop. Woohoo. Totally wrong. I was so wrong. I was completely like, that was like weird stuff that just, it couldn't all come out at once. And so it was like, just like eking out every time I would use the toilet. And sometimes it would even, like, once I got a little older, it would even come out partway when I was nowhere near a toilet and like actively holding it in. It would like poke its little head out and sometimes actually come out, no matter, like, depending on how far I had to walk to get to the bathroom. And this is the thing, if we don't talk about this embarrassing stuff and let people know that they're not the only ones experiencing it, then people are gonna like live in a bubble and not know that there's anything wrong.
Okay.
Right?
So,
Like me.
yeah. So now the topic of this talk is, how does your poop look like? And so, are you really asking people to investigate their stool? And if yes, then what should they look for and relate it with?
Yes. So there's something, I'm going to take this out so that you can see it. There's something that's very helpful that anybody can look up on a Google search really easily. It's called the Bristol stool chart. Here it is right here. Okay, I'm on a mirror and I can't see which way I'm going. Okay,
It's
so
okay. It's good.
so type 1 is what I used to have all the time. Tiny little balls, looks like goat turds or rabbit turds. And that's an indication that you're constipated. That, or if you only poop once a day, you're constipated, or less than once a day. So it can get worse, right? And then there's so go from number 1 to number 4. It's on a scale of 1 to 7, right? Number 4 is nirvana poo. That's like beautiful, doesn't smell very bad. It's still poop, but it doesn't like stink up the bathroom, and it comes out very easily, like soft serve ice cream. And it's super easy to wipe too. Like there's not a lot of cleanup with this. So that's like and it's the one that just comes, like you just sit down and it comes out and there's like no trouble involved, right? And then if we go all the way to the worst one, so we did the best one, the worst one, constipated, and then the best. Now the worst one on the other side, which is super duper diarrhea, number 7, it's all watery, there's no solid pieces, right? And then there's numbers in between there that are like on the way from watery to nirvana poo, and then on the way from nirvana poo to totally constipated. So so this is what we're looking for, right? And there's something like in between totally constipated and nirvana poo, there's like okay, it looks like a sausage, but you can see that it's all these like little balls and they're just stuck together. Or it looks like a sausage, but there's a lot of cracks in it, so it looks like dried up cracked concrete. And then between 4 and 7, we're getting watery from there. So like it can be soft blobs, but you can tell the difference between the soft blobs and the type 1 hard blobs, right? But it's still like these tiny little things. And then it gets, more and more watery as we just get to, everybody knows what diarrhea looks like. So, so that's
it's very interesting. I didn't know that, I'm going to ask you a question and you will be having a stool chart like this.
Oh yeah, because I've described this with words to so many people that I was like, I'm just gonna buy one, and so I can show you right here. And then anybody can just Google it, the Bristol stool chart. You just look it up, and you can have a visual representation of what I'm talking about here. And number 4 is what we're looking for. So you have no idea how many times my daughter has come and gotten me after she used the restroom. She's 11 now. She comes and gets me after she uses the restroom. She's like, Mom, look, number 4.
And I have 2 daughters also, so I can also correlate which one is in number 4 and which one is here. Okay, so it's good to be aware of things, because what you're eating and how it is affecting you. Ultimately, it's the byproduct.
Yes.
So then I want to know you about Candida. I want to ask you about Candida.
Mhm.
What is Candida, and is it something coming from outside in our bodies, and which organs in our body are affected by it?
Okay, so that's a couple questions all in one. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, let me know if when I'm done, if I've answered them all.
Mm-hmm.
So, candida is something that is supposed to be in our gut in a small amount.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and it starts off as just a like not harmful thing, and they're little organisms, and they live in there in conjunction with all of the bacteria that's in our gut, and they play nicely together when they're balanced correctly. So we should have like more good bacteria than anything else, right, as far as the living organisms in our gut.
Mm-hmm.
um so what happens though is, in today's society, with all of the pesticides that are sprayed on the foods that are growing outside, and then our animals eat them, and
Mm-hmm.
then so we're eating pesticides through so many different ways,
Mm-hmm.
right? The fruit, the vegetables, the meat, we're eating pesticides. So pesticides are made exactly to kill the same kind of bugs that are in our gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so important to eat
Mm-hmm.
organic, like across the board, even meat, everything,
Mm-hmm.
because if they're eating the pesticides, we're eating the pesticides, right? So I call it eating bug spray because that's literally what it is, and it's killing the bugs in your gut. So when we kill those bugs in our gut, and that's not the only way we can kill bugs in our gut, I could go down a huge rabbit hole that way. But when we do the things to kill the bugs in our gut, then somehow the candida just thrives. It doesn't get killed. It's a different kind of thing, and it thrives, and it turns into a fungus, and then it eats away at the lining of our gut and moves through it and gets into our bloodstream. And it likes to live in warm, wet areas. So the best one of those is our gut, and that's where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to leave that area,
Mm-hmm.
but it will when it because by killing all that bacteria, the good bacteria in there, we are building a mansion
Mm-hmm.
for the candida to grow, thrive, and multiply in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they want to travel, and so they find other areas, so they move into the warm, wet areas in our body. So that would be our brain, which
Mm-hmm.
that's how we get the brain fog and the headaches and all that stuff. That's right there. And it'll move into your sinuses and your throat. So some people have when they have a candida overgrowth, they'll have sinus infections, a lot frequent sinus infections, and thrush.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you get the candida overgrowth in your throat.
Ah.
Mhm.
Laryngitis, you mean? People have laryngitis.
No,
It's
it's
not
like
that.
no, it's not that. It's like you'll see like a white coating on the back of your tongue.
Uh-huh.
And then sometimes babies get this when they're
Mm-hmm.
breastfeeding. They
Mm-hmm.
get
Mm-hmm.
it. So that's something but if you get that as an adult, it's an indication of a possible candida overgrowth.
Mm-hmm.
And also it likes to live in the vagina as well.
Mm.
That's a nice warm, wet area. And so that's like you can see, you'll get a clue if that's a problem for you if you have a lot of yeast infections. And so
Mm.
that's something that happened with me as well. I had a candida overgrowth, didn't know about it. Um, I was getting a lot of sinus infections, a lot of yeast infections, and I didn't realize that I was getting a lot of yeast infections either. So that's one of the things that I like to educate about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that, like, I was getting like 6 yeast infections every year. And I didn't have anybody telling me, oh, that's a lot. It really is like basically you have chronic yeast. If you're getting 6 yeast
Mm-hmm.
infections a year, if you get like 2 or more, you should be worried,
And
you
then
know?
on top of that, you are eating antibiotics or antifungal stuff, to grow more candida. Then I think so.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So you're like further killing the good guys who are
Yeah.
going to be fighting against the candida, right? So yeah, so you absolutely said it. Antibiotics, also birth control pills can that's a steroid. So
Mm-hmm.
steroids kill gut bacteria. So,
Mm-hmm.
and also like if you get sick, like a lot of times people get sick, the antibiotics aren't enough, right? They did 1 or 2 rounds of antibiotics. Doctor, I'm still sick. I can't figure out a way to breathe. I've had this illness for like 2 months now. And then they go on steroids. The doctor gives them a round of steroids. So that is going to subdue the virus that's happening in your body. That's why the antibiotics didn't do it for you, because it's a virus, right? And that subdues the virus, but it doesn't completely get rid of it. And it further kills the good guys that could fight it next time it blossoms. And it will blossom. So this is something that I'm sure you've experienced maybe yourself in the past, or you've seen other people experience, that whenever you get sick and then you fight it with antibiotics, possibly steroids as well, the next time that same thing comes back, it's a lot worse.
Yes, you're right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
I tend to watch my diet a lot. So I mean, it's not happening with me that much because I'm being very careful. But I have noted in many people. For example, my sister, she's a doctor, and anything happens to her, she's like, I am taking antibiotic. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. It's not necessarily making yourself even more sick.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because, I mean, she's not doing anything like wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not the best thing, but that's how doctors are taught. They're taught, somebody comes in with this is the drug you give them.
Yeah.
That's
it's
the
very normal. It's very normal for them to take antibiotics and even give to kids, but I am not very comfortable with that.
Me neither. My daughter, like, I think she had 1 round of antibiotics when she was very young, and it was for an ear infection. And I didn't realize at the time there's homeopathy that fights ear infections. Like, you don't have to take drugs for that,
So how do we diagnose that we have a candida overgrowth?
How do you diagnose? Well, yeah, that's rough. So a lot of people are self-diagnosed because they listen to me, and they kind of like go down the checklist. Oh yeah, this, it must be that, right? But there is a stool test that you can do. There's also a food sensitivity test, and we've seen less reliability with the food sensitivity test because of exactly what they're testing. And it could be something that happened in the past, or so the stool test is the best. And so that's what I use. I use a comprehensive stool test, and it tests for more than just candida overgrowth. That's just one of the many things it tests. And it'll test for, all of the good guys that are supposed to be in your gut, and things like mucus and immune system markers. So it's really great. It gives you a very large, well-rounded picture of everything that's going on in your gut, so that, say you do have a candida overgrowth, you know then what probiotics to take, and which bacteria is maybe too much in there or not enough. So you can sort of tailor your treatment accordingly, because you know exactly what's going on in there. And sometimes people go through this checklist. They're like, yeah, I have candida. And then they take this stool test and it shows no growth for candida, like none at all. And I've talked to the people in the lab where this stool test is observed, and they're like, yeah, if there's candida in there, they will make it stand up and whistle Dixie, stand up and dance. If it says no growth, there's nothing there. So it's amazing. Like, I had a couple clients come to me. They totally thought they had candida. They were fighting candida for like years before they saw me. And then we did this stool test, and they're like, oh, it's not candida. And then we started to just balance their gut and do all of the things that are going to make their gut happy. And suddenly they're like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better now.
So then what is the conventional approach of controlling candida, or they want to kill candida? And what is your approach?
Yeah. So there's the conventional approach is very different. So that's something that like a lot of people that just simply have a candida overgrowth, like what I'm talking about, regular doctors won't acknowledge that that's a thing.
Mhm.
They think that a candida overgrowth is like something, and this is true. This is one thing that's candida overgrowth. I'm not saying that it's not true, but like they think the only way you can have a candida overgrowth is if you go to the hospital and you have a surgery or something like that. You know, they give you all these antibiotics before a surgery. Like it's severe, right? So, and you get all these antibiotics and it kills all your good guys and your candida just overruns in your body. And suddenly in a week, you're about to die. That's what they recognize as a candida overgrowth. And they don't see that, yes, it can happen slowly. If if you're on birth control pills for years and you're not eating organic fruit and all those things, they pile up, and like the level of stress that's in our world right now, right? That creates cortisol overload, which is another steroid, which kills gut bacteria. Stress kills gut bacteria. So they don't recognize that all of these things can possibly like slowly send you down that road and get you very sick. They're like, no, you have a sinus infection, take antibiotics. You have a yeast infection,
Yeah.
diflucan, like, what are you doing? So they don't get it, that it can be a little more subtle and very painful and horrible. So that's the conventional way of going about it. Like what they do is they'll kill it with diflucan. It's that's the
Diclofenac, yeah.
yeah, fluconazole is I think the
Yeah, that
generic
is for yeast infection, no?
for
Fluconazole.
yeast. Yeah, so candida is yeast.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
it's the same thing. So part of my treatment actually was a little bit of diflucan, but I was doing a lot of other things holistically to help my body not be hurt by the diflucan. If that makes any sense. So yeah, so that's kind of a conventional view on it. But then you can go towards like doctors, like they'll still use, like even functional medicine doctors or naturopaths, they'll still use things like diflucan, but we usually start with, they usually start with natural antifungal. So that's going to be like garlic, oregano oil, grapefruit seed extract, that kind of stuff. So I can't see what the thing is shining.
Wild oregano oil.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps, and then, and on that stool test that I was telling you about before, if you have candida growth, they'll test it to all of these things that people use to kill it. And then you can see like which one is going to be the most useful for you. So that's something that's amazing too. So, and there's another drug besides diflucan, nystatin. That's another one. But frequently that is in a liquid form that's full of sugar, which
So
is
you're feeding yeast.
super confusing because because you're feeding it because yeast and candida loves sugar. It eats it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner and snacks. So so it's funny that you're like trying to kill the thing and feed it at the same time. That's kind of ridiculous to me. So like I always tell people if they're given nystatin to make sure that it's not the liquid form, that it's in capsules instead, because then there's not going to be sugar in it. Because that's just stupid to me.
Yeah.
Like, why would you feed it and kill it at the same time? So yeah, so but then just killing it isn't enough because you're never going to kill it all and you don't want to. It's supposed to be there, But so what you need to do is kind of knock it down. So you kill it with antifungals. Hopefully natural ones work because the diflucan is really hard on the liver and that just gets into a whole other like topic of like detoxing and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, natural antifungals, then you starve it. So there's the anti-candida diet, and that includes absolutely nothing that your body would digest as though it were sugar. So so no grains, no fruit except for strawberries, or sorry, not just strawberries, berries and green apples. That's the only fruit. And no grains except for wild rice and quinoa.
Okay, quinoa is allowed, huh? Okay.
Yeah, because it's takes a little longer to digest, and there is protein in there, you know.
Uh-huh.
But as far as like like a combination of brown rice, quinoa, berries, and green apples, you would only have 1 cup of those things per day. Not 1 cup of each, but 1 cup of that combined per
Mm-hmm.
day. So
Okay.
it's a difficult diet. Like I was super sad when I was on this diet. I got used to it, but
Uh-huh.
it was hard. It
Do
is
you?
it is really hard. You need you need support from someone like me to like really get through it. So then besides the antifungals starving it, then you have to, I call it evict it. So you have to repopulate the gut with the things that are supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you kill away all this candida and then you're like, okay, I'm done, and you go back to what you were doing before, well, it's just going to grow back.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to make
So,
sure you fill that empty space
mhm.
with the good guys.
So you give some probiotics and other stuff.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Sauerkraut, kimchi, fermented stuff, fermented foods. We don't use kombucha at that point because there's a lot of sugar in there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
I have heard about those things, never tried, but I was trying kefir. Kefir. Somebody suggested taking kefir. It's the
Keep, yeah. Um, that can be good too. Yeah, that's another good probiotic source, especially if you make it yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
And be careful about how you flavor it. Like don't put any,
No,
any
no,
sugar
no.
in
I
it.
was not.
Yeah. Just
Maybe
like,
add some Himalayan salt is okay, I think. Little
yeah.
bit of
I
that.
used to put it in my smoothie,
Mhm.
and like I would make it myself
Uh-huh.
with coconut milk.
Uh-huh.
You can use cashew milk too, like any kind of a
Mhm.
non-dairy milk. And then there's
Uh-huh.
water kefir too.
Mhm.
I think I say it differently. Like I would say kefir, like that's what it looks like,
Okay.
but
Kefir.
the way you pronounce it, I'm sure is much more
I
correct.
don't know.
Um, so yeah, I used to make it myself, and then I would put just a little bit of it in my smoothie, and
Mhm.
it gave this nice like tart flavor. It's
Mhm.
super hard to drink it by itself, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, it's like
Yeah, I know, yeah. But it's good in a smoothie.
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
nice. Yeah.
So let's talk about irritable bowel syndrome. Is it somewhere related to candida or no? Or it is something else?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people who have irritable bowel syndrome, it's being caused by candida overgrowth.
Mhm.
So like we talked about before, if you have a candida overgrowth, you also have an imbalance in your gut bacteria.
Mhm.
One cannot exist without the other. Your gut bacteria is never going to be in balance if you have a candida overgrowth. They can't
Mhm.
exist in the same place,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So with imbalanced gut bacteria comes irritable bowels, and candida can cause it. So I think what I'm saying is, if you have a candida overgrowth, you most likely also have irritable bowels.
Mhm.
But with irritable bowels, you don't necessarily have a candida overgrowth.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it can take a long time for the candida to overgrow.
Mhm.
So like me, like I had irritable bowels for 40 years.
Mhm.
Like really, like the first 40 years of my
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
Horrible. Like
Mhm.
either constipated or diarrhea. I never had normal poop. I didn't know it. And
Mhm.
that's the worst part, is that I didn't know. But anyway, I don't think that I started that candida overgrowth part of it until I was maybe 33,
Mhm.
and it was there for a good long time before I would admit it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because it's a super hard diet, and I was Googling it and all the time, and I was like, no, I can't do that. Anyway, you asked about irritable bowels. That usually, I mean, let's go back to glyphosate. That will cause irritable bowels in anybody.
What is that?
Glyphosate, that's a pesticide.
Ah, okay.
It's a very popular pesticide. It's part of a product called Roundup
Mhm.
that they sell it at all the big gardening stores in the United States. And I believe that it is outlawed in quite a few countries.
Mhm.
and should be. But here where I live, people sprayed in their backyard.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I lived in America for 7 years, and you won't believe me, my gut was so bad there. I used to have a very healthy digestive system, you can say. But when I went to America, I stopped drinking milk. I developed this milk intolerance, and my stomach started bloating, and I was like, what is happening? I don't know. Then when I returned back to India, I stayed there, and then somehow I got healed myself. It was something, yeah. And then I started drinking fresh cow milk. I was fine. But in America, oh my God, that's why I don't want to come back.
I don't blame you.
I don't want to come back there.
It's super hard to be healthy here.
Yeah.
Because, and like things are labeled organic in the store. I think we do it wrong. Because like
Possible.
where you are, right? Like it's just food and it's all fine, right? None of it is sprayed with bug spray.
I'm sure it is here also, but I choose wisely now. I'm also ordering from organic farms here, so I just negotiate for the price and other stuff.
Yeah, good. So I think they do it wrong. Like in the produce section, it's organic and conventional. When actually the organic things are being grown in the conventional way, the way it was for hundreds of years, right?
Yes.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And the conventional stuff that's in the produce section should be labeled with bug spray.
Yes.
To be conventional.
But we will be repelled. We will be repelled. When we go to buy, then we will be repelled like insects, reading that. So
yeah,
that's why they don't want to. I mean, they are not being honest with us. That's the thing,
Yeah, you're exactly right. It'll make people stop buying it, which would be awesome because we would have so much less illness if people would stop eating bug spray.
Yes. I think people should stop buying stuff. I think if we get more awareness, if we, for example, you and me, we know that which foods we should select. I'm still buying stuff, which may be treated with pesticide, insecticide, but still, I am selecting a lot from organic. So somewhere I'm balancing, but many people are not aware of it. It's like, why you complain so much? This is just food. Everybody's eating. Why you have problem?
Yeah.
You are different.
Well, that's something, what I think a lot of people don't recognize that they're bloated.
I am bloated still, but I think this oregano oil helps me. So whenever I feel bloated, I just take one pill.
Yeah. Well, like I lived most of my life bloated and I didn't recognize, like, I didn't know that was happening. I just I felt a certain feeling after I ate and I thought that that's my satiated feeling. I thought that's what it's like to feel full. But actually, then once I started eating the anti-candida diet and I wasn't bloated anymore after meals, I went through a sort of a time when I thought that I was still hungry because I wasn't bloated, because I wasn't enormous and bloated. And I didn't have that too full feeling, But now I'm used to this feeling just comfortable after meals. And I notice when I'm too full and oh my gosh, this is bloated. This is what I used to feel like after every single meal. And I had no idea there was anything wrong with it. It was comfortable for me.
So
that was comfort.
So for the sake of our viewers, I want to ask you, what are the benefits of functional medicine approach versus conventional approach in treating your gut conditions?
Oh, yeah. So functional medicine doctors are more educated on how to help us regain balance. Right? They're not just going to see one symptom and give it a Band-Aid. So a functional medicine doctor sees the body as a whole,
Mhm.
whereas many conventional doctors, like they have their specialty. I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor. That's all I know about. I don't know about how your gut could be influencing your ear, nose, and throat,
Mhm.
whereas a functional medicine doctor puts it all together, and they really do focus a lot on the gut because that's the center
Mhm.
of your immunity, right?
Mhm.
So they focus a lot on that, and they see how everything affects everything else,
Mhm.
and your gut can affect your mood
Mhm.
and your thought processes.
Mhm.
It's amazing how the gut brain connection works. So yeah, so the functional medicine doctors see that. They look at the body more holistically and treat you as an entire person,
Mhm.
and they're less likely to give a band-aid
Mhm.
and more likely to help you find a way to eat right for your body
Mhm.
and supplement any. The functional medicine doctors will see your body as an entire being rather than small pieces,
Mhm.
and treat you as a whole.
Mhm.
And so they're more apt to suggest supplements
Mhm.
to make sure that you're getting all the nutrients and the minerals that you need.
Mhm.
And they're also more likely to suggest things like a detox.
Mhm.
Hey, this are all these symptoms just signify to me that your liver is clogged, and you
Mhm.
need to cleanse.
Mhm.
And so they're more likely to do that kind of thing and help your body to be well on its own rather than to dull your symptoms so
Mhm.
you think you're well, but you're actually getting sicker behind
Mhm.
the scenes.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. So,
Yeah.
I think that's about it. And I think you are going to give our viewers one offer. I mean, it's not a freebie, but it's some inexpensive offer. And I have checked it, but not gone into the details. And if you can explain to us, I think it will be good.
Sure, sure. So this is for people who are experiencing any of these things that we were talking about here,
Mhm.
any sort of irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, diarrhea. It's going to work for all of you. It's just this like gut reset.
Mhm.
Okay. And you can go through it. You can do it for as long as you want. I recommend at least 2 weeks,
Mhm.
but a lot of people, they go through it and they're like, okay, this is how I eat now.
Mhm. So
Because
it's a diet, huh? It's a
well,
diet plan.
kind of, and it's a lot of education
Mhm.
about what's going on with your gut. It's an online program.
Mhm.
So there are PDFs, videos,
Mhm.
and so like a lot of education about
Mhm.
what's going on in our gut, what our poop should look like, and
Mhm.
how to get it there.
Mhm. Good.
Yeah. And then tools to make that happen.
I think people should go for it, and even I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
pretty good stuff. And it's only
yeah,
$37.
yeah, I checked
Yeah.
that. It's not that bad. I mean, it's good.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
affordable.
I mean, there's people out there selling things that have half the information
Mhm.
for $100, $200.
Mhm.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like people need to know this stuff.
Mhm.
And, it's just a little tiny investment in yourself. It's more the time than the money.
Mhm.
That's gonna
That's
be a
true.
thing.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Laurie, for coming over to the transformation immersion. And I really enjoyed talking to you over such an important topic. So, and I hope that after watching this interview, people start taking their gut health seriously and make suitable changes in their lifestyle. And thanks to the people who are watching us, and do let us know what you liked about this interview by commenting on my Facebook group, Body, Mind, and Soul Healing. Keep your gut healthy by making healthy choices. Stay connected virtually. Bye bye and take care.
Thank you.